Asia is a non-profit dedicated to strengthening the climate ecosystem in Asia through the capacity building of organizations, focusing on human resources, organizational development, and thought leadership. Climate change will cause a massive shift in the fundamental functioning of several industries. Climate Asia is a new initiative bridging the gap by working with direct and indirect climate actors and organizations across the spectrum in various sectors. We will accomplish this by building a movement to inspire people to work in the climate ecosystem, a digital platform to find climate jobs, climate funding, events, and news, and thought leadership in the form of convenings, conferences, panel discussions, and dialogue building. Climate Asia endeavors to create conversations around the three pillars: share, empower, and connect, by increasing awareness, upskilling the ecosystem, and catalyzing networking among players within and outside the industry. We have launched the Conversation of Change, a video interview series centered around one of the most pertinent crises of our times, climate change. Conversation of Change attempts to synthesize perspectives around the climate action, skill, talent, and the journey of various climate leaders and their role in the climate ecosystem. Today, we have with us Himanshu, who is the co-founder of an online marketplace, My Pahadi Dukan. He has worked in the fields of sustainability in the Himalayan region, ranging from Ladakh to Darjeeling, on various issues pertaining to the local communities. We also have with us Zubair, who is the co-founder of My Pahadi Dukan. He is a computer science graduate who worked as a web developer and dabbled in outdoors and environmental sustainability on trekking trails and remote Himalayan villages. Working in the Himalayas piqued an interest in working on solutions for the problems that affect the region. Anas also co-founded My Pahadi Dukan and works on providing easier access to the pan-India market at large to the small-scale sellers from the Himalayas. My Pahadi Dukan was started with a vision to provide small businesses in the Himalayan region with opportunities to make use of their products and talents through an online market. They connect sellers from all over India, serving communities across the country, including women's self-help groups, organic farmers, social entrepreneurs, indigenous residents, and independent brands. We welcome both of you here to our Conversation of Change. Thank you for accepting the invitation. With that, we'll jump into our very first question. So could you describe the work done at My Pahadi Dukan and what your roles as the co-founder looks like?
So first of all, thank you, Poonima, for this lovely introduction, and thank you, Sathiki, for organizing this. And coming to the answer, so My Pahadi Dukan started with a very simple vision that it was a mission actually, that we wanted to connect sellers in the Himalayan region to customers, to not just customers in India, but to also to the international customers. And so it's been 13 months since we have been operating, and so far, we've got some really good response in the market. And as a co-founder, I handle operations of the company. So I am responsible for forming seller partnerships, responsible for getting new sellers and curating the products basically. And Anas, my co-founder, handles the tech side of the company. So he's an engineer by background, as you mentioned. And at large, these are the responsibilities.
With that, we'll also move on to our next question. You have extensive experience in the sustainability field, Himanshu, and Anas, you come from a tech background. How would you describe your career journeys into this space, and what were your key learnings?
So never in the wildest dreams, we both of us imagined that we would be working with the Himalayan communities, or we would be entrepreneurs. So I'm a graduate in botany with my master's in forensic sciences, and likewise Anas is a computer engineer. But call it destiny or call it the universe's conspiracy that both of us met while working for a trekking company in Darjeeling. Initially, the idea why both of us joined the trekking company was we wanted to travel, and they were basically providing accommodation and food in return for travel. But what was meant to be just a leisure activity actually, showed us the dark side of tourism. So we were working with India Hikes, one of the largest trekking organizations, and they had this an initiative of theirs called Green Trails, and both of us started as Green Trail interns. Like I started in 2017 as an intern in Manali, and then both of us met as Green Trail fellows in Darjeeling. So that sort of showed us the underside, the dark side of tourism, wherein we were exposed to the environmental havoc that as tourists we create. I mean, we do romanticize the mountains. Initially, we also did. But no one was talking about the community, the issues that these communities faced at large. And in the entire, in the entire process, the amount of waste that we started generating in the mountains. So when we talk about climate change, the communities that live in the mountains or communities that live close to the sea, they are at the front line. So the worst, the worst catastrophic effects that these communities have to bear is something that we don't even realize in our daily lives. So that's what that kind of motivated us to continue working in this field, and both of us gave our subsequent careers in our respective fields, and we started working in the mountains full time, working in issues like waste management or responsible tourism. So I was also working under Sonam Wangchuk for his Ice Stupa project. Yeah, Anas, if you would like to add something to this.
For me, the journey was quite different. I came with a very defined objective, what to do in Green Trails. I got to know about Green Trails in one of my treks with India Hikes. I wanted to take a break from, like after I graduated, I wanted to take a break and like figure things out, try different things. So I went on a trek, and there I was briefed by a Green Trails intern about the problems that mountains are facing because of tourism and trekking. So it kind of intrigued me. I was already working. I already cared about sustainability at some level in my own personal life, and I wanted to sort of learn as well as extend this knowledge to the pursuit of objectives of India Hikes as well. So that is how I got into Green Trails, and I wanted to sort of be the warrior and save the community, but the reality is very different. What we even at a organizational level, like India Hikes, it was only a band-aid solution that they could come up with. But like sometimes band-aid solution is what is needed. So on the project that I worked, I brought down around 3,500 kgs of garbage from the Sandakpur trail and disposed it off in landfills and segregated and disposed in landfill and recycled it. So that kind of, although it was satisfying, but it kind of felt not enough. So I wanted to work on a bigger plan. And I had no idea what that bigger plan was, but until Naropa Fellowship came through. So this seemed like a more expansive, more holistic approach to solving that situation instead of just picking up garbage in the mountains.
Thank you, Himanshu and Anas, for sharing your very interesting career journeys. With that, I would like to move on to our next question. So when it comes to your expertise area of work, like curating a marketplace platform featuring all natural, handmade, and sustainable products from small enterprises based in the mountains, how do you attract talent, and what are the essential skill sets required to be working in these areas?
So we don't. So talent would be not a suitable term that I would use here, because these are basically farmers that have been working in this field for generations, and we are merely a mediator between them and the end customer who wants to have an access to these organic or natural products. So most of the products that are curated on the website are either from the friends and family that we have known in the Himalayas for several years now, or these are, some of them are our ex-Naropa fellows as well. Satiki and I and Anas are all alumni of the same fellowship. And then there are certain products that were also recommended to us by people who have traveled and came across these products and wanted to have an access to them. So, I mean, we do have a detailed SOP that we follow when we want to curate these products. These include your strict quality checks and, public reviews, researching about the public reviews and making sure that these products are all natural and like whatever they claim to be. If it's organic, then we need the certifications. And if it's, sustainable, we need to make sure that it's coming from a proper source and all the hygiene standards are also maintained or all the quality checks are basically ticked off. So yeah, I mean, this is the basic process that we follow at right now at My Pahadi Dukan in order to curate.
Thank you, Himanshu, for throwing light on that. Anas, would you like to add something to that?
No, I think that's enough.
Okay. With that, I would like to ask a follow-up question. So what advice would you give to a senior and or mid-level professional transitioning into entrepreneurship and implementing elements of sustainability in their ventures? And one piece of advice to a student who wants to work in the climate space.
So when we were sort of understanding entrepreneurship, people would often tell us about two P's that we need to focus on. The first being the people, I mean the end customer or end consumer or of your product, and the second being the profit, of course. But when we, we both of us have worked with on ground, understanding the ground challenges, and we feel there's another P that needs to be added. That's planet. So your business approach to any business or your approach to entrepreneurship to basically should cover all three P's: people, planet, and profit. The advice that I would like to give to any person who wants to dabble into entrepreneurship is to stay connected to the ground realities. Very often, we tend to build solutions or we tend to make policies for the people on ground without actually having lived that reality ourselves. So this is, I think, by far one of the most important things that I would throw light on. We stay connected to the ground realities and stay true in the entire idea. Ki, hota ye hai, when once we start working now, we tend to forget the initial, like why we started and what we started doing and for who we are building this product. So I think it's very important to also stay connected to your basic philosophy. Ki, why did you become an entrepreneur? Like we started to serve the Himalayan communities. So we want to make sure that that always stays at the core of our business, the Himalayan communities and the issues that these people face. Anas, anything you would like to
add? Not as such, but like just reiterating Himanshu's point, we need to stay connected to the ground realities because like people with MBA degrees tend to get lost in bookish knowledge sometimes, and they are too attached to their models that they have learned in their colleges. So that helps certainly, and that is a supplemental knowledge in this case. When you're working in entrepreneurship, you need to get the primary knowledge from the field.
Thank you, Anas and Himanshu, for these wonderful answers. I quite like how you framed, Himanshu, about the three Ps, and Anas, how you mentioned that the people with MBA degrees probably stick a lot to the models and framework, but they should actually stay connected to the ground realities. Thank you for sharing those advice. With that, I'd move on to the next question. My Pahadi Dukan is present in more than 10 Himalayan states, from the green passes of Ladakh to the lush green valleys of Manipur, and has delivered more than 5,000 shipments, both domestic and international. What are some of the philosophies that you have learned from entrepreneurs, including women's self-help groups, organic farmers, social entrepreneurs, indigenous residents, and independent brands in the mountains while traveling and working over the years?
I think one of the biggest learnings that we have had so far is that the people and planet have to be at the heart of your business. No matter how tech savvy your business is, it all boils down to two basic philosophies that I follow, your compassion and empathy towards each other. So, and that is what most of the businesses today lack. And this is something that we have learned from the communities that we work with, that staying together in a community, staying, empathic and compassionate towards your fellow colleague or towards your co-founders or towards anyone who's involved in the supply chain, that's very important. And people form the heart of your business. Because at the end, it's people who produce, people who deliver your product, and people who consume your product. So this is something that I always want to focus on, and this philosophy that I want to follow forever in the business, any business I take up in the future. And Anas.
So about people, like being empathetic and being wary of their problems, being aware of their problems. So Himanshu went to Dharamshala once, and he was approaching different sellers to list on platforms. So one of the sellers he went to, he said, he gave a very blunt reply. He said, "आप हमें सिखाने के लिए आए हो, आप नीचे से आते हो हमें सिखाने के लिए आओ, but हम सीखेगा नहीं." Basically, booed Himanshu. So one thing that we came to know about through that incident was a lot of people from the planes come in and they take the products of the seller and they just disappear. Lakhs of product, and they just disappear. They don't pay, or if they pay, it takes a long time. So one of the things that we came up with after that, like we already had already incorporated in our business, was timely payments, and that the majority of the chunk of the income is going to the producer itself. So that is one of the principles that we work.
And as a business, I think it's also important that we only act as enablers, and we want to act as a catalyst of change. We don't want to. When you start working with these communities, you often get that savior complex or that God complex that, okay, I am helping these. But we just want to enable being a channel. We want to just enable these people to sell online. We don't want to help these people because these companies have been self-sufficient for a very long time. Yes. So keeping away that God savior is something that we want to do.
Thank you, Himanshu and Anas, for these really wonderful. It's some really great advice to be empathetic, and also thanks for sharing these incredible values of your organization. With that, I would like to ask another question. So you mentioned that you did not have a template of formal education on startup success. What helped you to remain motivated in order to pave the journey of success, which looks like getting featured in the Hindu and Outlook magazine, along with 9 major recognitions, with many more to come?
So all of these publications are actually, I don't know if we were just lucky or we were there at the right time. But none of us in our entire company, actually, we are 4 co-founders, and none of us have that sort of educational or formal experience in entrepreneurship. And it's only one of our co-founders, who has also worked in a corporate sector before, with only 1 year of experience, and that's not sufficient, of course. But what has laid the foundation of our startup is not being having all these degrees or fancy jargons or whatever, but our extensive work in the Himalayan communities from the last 4 years. That's what laid the foundation of our enterprise, and that's what I told, that it's very important to stay connected to the reality, to the ground reality, so it's also hard for us to stay motivated all the time. But then from time and again, we make sure to take a step back often, and we think that why we started My Pahadi Dukan. The long vision, when we talk about it, it's not just creating sales or dispatching these orders or creating more demand, but issue at large, we want to address those issues. We want to make sure that people are aware of the issues that these communities face. So we're trying to sort of build a community of people wherein we not just talk about the fancy or bright side of Himalayan, but also towards the dark side, towards the issue that the farmers face, towards, we want to create dialogue around climate change, around sustainable development. So, I mean, that's what motivates us whenever we are feeling low. And yeah, I mean, and of course, the support that we have received throughout our entire journey. Customers often they call us or text us telling us how good, how like important it is that the work we are doing is so good, and then the positive reviews that we hear from our sellers as well, how we have helped them boost their monthly sales or provided them an additional source of revenue to the existing revenue sources. And so that's what that keeps our journey motivated, and that makes our time in the enterprise worthwhile.
Thanks, Himanshu, for highlighting those really wonderful points. With that, I would like to move on to the next question. How has your upbringing and working environment resulted in the creation of quality products and inclusive on-ground impact with like-minded consumers via My Pahadi Dukan?
So as I mentioned, that the support that we've received from our customers and consumers has been very good. And the idea of, so when you shop from My Pahadi Dukan, you're not just getting the product, but we also make sure to tell you about the place that this product is coming from or the person behind this product. So now currently we are selling apples online, and if you visit the website, so you can have an entire information about the farmer that's growing. So people are able to also connect to our sellers on a very emotional and a personal level as well when we do that. But if you see other FMCG companies, machine-made products, and no one knows where the hell the product is coming from, and we want to change that. We want to tell the customers that there are actual people who work day and night to make sure that this product reaches you in a perfect condition. And of course, the customers have been really appreciative of the efforts that we're trying to put in. And our upbringing, we are sort of going against the flow when we talk about society at large, because as our society has a very conventional measures of success, and none of us at the company are able to fulfill those. We are certainly creating an impact on the Himalayan economy and on the lives of the sellers. But again, we are not successful in terms of society's measures. And Anas, if you would like to add something to this.
Not really anything substantial, but it's a struggle every day. And certainly upbringing, I didn't have any any of us had any business backgrounds. So it's a struggle. It's a learning experience every day. And ever since we came in, joined the entrepreneurial community, and we've been to many events and having conversations with other entrepreneurs who are kind of in a similar situation, and how they are learning, exchanging notes. So since we do not have any degrees, we are not connected to the professional space, I guess, in that sense, but we are connected to the ground reality. So that is helping us. And the person who has professional degrees and they're not connected to the ground realities, they are struggling in their own way. The sweet spot is to get to the center, where you are connected to the entrepreneur community, professional community, as well as the ground reality. So that is the destination. It's a learning experience every day.
Thank you, Anas and Himanshu. I quite like that point to come to that point where you have that balance between the two. And I think we both are doing some very incredible work to actually for the customers to know who the sellers are. It's actually really, really great to hear. So with that, I would like to move on to our next question. You founded My Pahadi Dukan with your team through your common passions for supporting local communities and traveling to remote villages, scenic mountains, beaches, and unfamiliar cities. How has your idea of work-life balance changed since the past year?
So when we started My Pahadi Dukan, all of us had a perception that we would get to travel a lot. Since really working with the mountain communities, we'll always be in the mountains, but that has sort of entirely been shaken and broken down. So all of us are stuck at our homes, working from our respective places. Um, but from time to time, we make sure to visit, travel also to we. So priority at the company is also our mental health. So whenever things get really out of hand, we do take a step back, take a small vacation. All of us get together, travel to some place for like 3 to 4 days, and then rejuvenate ourselves, and then get to work again. But so far, the journey has been really exciting. The work has been. We are still trying to create that work and life balance, because when you're working in a high growth startup, those boundaries of professional and personal lives, they sort of start to diminish. But we tend to make sure that we don't burn out ourselves in the entire process. And from time to time, as I mentioned, that we do travel to visit our sellers at times, make sure that we also speak to them and understand the concerns that they are facing. And we also get some content made while when we're traveling. So yeah, I mean, we are still trying to figure out that work-life balance, but so far it's been good, and it's been very stimulating, both emotionally and mentally.
Anas, would you like to add on?
Yeah, I don't know about Himanshu, but like the line between personal life and work tends to get blurred when you're an entrepreneur. So even when you're traveling, you're always thinking, okay, what is the content that I can make through this journey? Like, how can I convey what we are doing to the customers? So I guess that line gets blurred, but yeah, at least in the initial stages, it has to be like that, I suppose. And the idea is to make it a bit more compartmentalized going ahead in the future.
Thank you, Himanshu and Anas. With that, we come to the end of our conversation. It was really, really wonderful and incredible to speak with you both.